G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here again with another video on Pathfinder Kingmaker. Now, this video is going to be a little bit of a surprise. This is a Magus build with a difference. So, I've myself watched a couple of videos on building Magi, and everyone talks about the different races and which ones work and which ones don't. I'm going to leave this image here at the moment, and we're actually just going to skip past this and go straight over to here and have a look at the Magi build. So people say, this race works well, this race doesn't. And generally they're looking at the stats of the race. So if we look at if we look at human, you got a +2 to any ability. So that's good if you're going to play a Magi, because you can choose to give that in intelligence or dex, or if you're doing a strength-based build, strength. Obviously, elves are good because they get a +2 to both dex and there we go. They get a +2 to both dex and int. So if you're doing a dex-based build, that works well. People say, well, there's nothing obviously as an advantage to play a dwarf, so that one's not going to work all that well. Gnomes, they have good charisma, so if you wanted to play a Eldritch Scion, that might be a good option. With Halfling, again, dex and charisma, so that also might make a good option for an Eldritch Scion. Half elves, you can add +2 to any ability, same with half orc, so they can work well. And then if you go into the various Aasimar sub-races, a couple of those work well. But I actually think that the one race that everyone says is probably one of the worst has one advantage, so we're going to show that. This is the dwarf. Now, a dwarf, as we'll just go back and change the portrait to this dwarven one just for completeness. So a dwarf as a Magus, and I'm not going to go Eldritch Scion or Sword Saint. The reason I'm not going to go Eldritch Scion is because they rely on charisma and the dwarf has a penalty to it. But as a straight Magus, what advantage can you get as a dwarf? Well, first of all, we're not going to play a dex-based ranger. We're going to play a strength-based, not ranger, Magus. So let's have a look then. If we were to put, say, 16 in strength, we're gonna need some dexterity, because initially we're not going to have a lot in the way of armor class, because we have to be in light armor initially. But remember, the Magus eventually gets the ability to go to medium armor at level 7 and heavy armor at level 13. It's only in these earlier levels where you really need some dex to help you out. So getting a couple of points bonus in dex is not a bad thing. We've already got a +1 in constitution, so that's going to bump our hit points up, so that's nice. The bonus in wisdom, you could take that out. You could put that back to 10. And in fact, you could drop the constitution back to 10 and use the extra points to give you, say, a higher strength. But I actually recommend leaving these as their original values and going 16 for strength, 14 for dex, 12 for constitution, 16 for intelligence, 12 for wisdom, and 8 for charisma. That's a fairly well-rounded. You've got a decent modifier. It's not the best that you could start with. It's not an 18 or a 20, but it's a +3, so you're doing well from an attack point of view. We've got 4 of these that we can put things in. I tend not to use magic devices so much, so I'll put those 3 and then maybe the last one in persuasion. Now, what feats do you then pick? Well, point blank shot, I don't know why that always comes up as being the recommended, because quite frankly we're not going to use ranged weapons, so that doesn't give us anything at all. You've only got 1 feat here. There's a lot of different things that you could pick. You can definitely go with some of the meta magics, although you have to be aware then that that means that those spells get treated as one higher level, or 2 levels in some case. So something that was a cantrip is now a first level spell or even a second level spell. So that's going to be a bit of a problem. You could pick some of your combat casting, for example, so that your concentration is better in combat. You could pick some of your purely combat feats, like power attack, because you eventually want to get some of the cleaves. You could do spell penetration. But even though it's an odd choice, I'm still going for improved initiative, just so that I can be that little bit better at starting first. If I can get that strike in first, that is a better thing for me. But definitely, toughness is another good one to give you a bit more hit points. You don't want your weapon finesse here because you're going strength based. So that's a good start for me. Spell wise, yeah, anytime you're doing a normal Magus, you're going to be a little bit disadvantaged because the only cantrip that you have that is touch based is Touch of Fatigue. But you're going to want to turn that from second level, you're going to want to turn that on all the time, so that's your base spell that you always do, which means you'll have essentially 2 attacks per round. One where you power up this spell and then attack with your weapon, so you'll get a bonus of you'll be attacking, but you'll also be causing the fatigue, and then you'll get your normal weapon attack in the round. Spell-wise, then, you definitely want to get the various touch spells. So Shocking Grasp and Corrosive Touch are the 2 only touch-based spells here. Shield is a good option, particularly for a straight Magus rather than an Arcane Archer, or Eldritch Archer, sorry. And then a lot of these other ones are backup spells. So True Strike is a good spell because you can cast that in and attack in the same round, being a Magus. So you can be sure that that attack that you do that round is definitely going to hit. And then you've got your other options here. Magic Missile is a standard that, most mages want to have at some point. And things like Burning Hand, Color Spray. Burning Hand is good, but Color Spray, because it does the stun, is better. So that's a good option. And then later on, you'll be asked for more spells. Get Burning Hand, maybe even Flare Burst, because it blinds multiple. Things like that. So why are we saying that a Dwarven Magus is better? What advantage does the dwarf have over the other races? It's very simple. It's this one proficiency here, Dwarven Weapon Familiarity. Right? So I will come out of this now and I'll load up a save that I have already played. And we'll see my Dwarven Magus and the weapon that he has, and why this may be a better choice for a lot of people. So you can see here that I've got the Dwarven War Axe. And the Dwarven War Axe is one of those special weapons in the game that is a member of the exotic proficiency group. So if anyone else wants to use this weapon, they have to know exotic weapons. But for a dwarf, because it's named Dwarven War Axe, a dwarf can get that weapon automatically. They don't have to get weapon proficiency in exotic. They don't have to do anything else. And for all of those exotic weapons that exist, it's one of the ones that does the most damage. So this does 1d10 of slashing damage. A normal longsword only does 1d8. So you've got... This is the only other weapons that do the similar damage are the Bastard Sword, which does 1d10, and I believe things like the Katana, and they're all exotic weapons. So the advantage I'm saying here is this Dwarven War Axe gives me an extra couple of points of damage potential per round that I can get as a Magus. And that could be very important to you. So, something to think about. If you want to give that playthrough a try, give it a go, see how it goes for you. Let me know in comments if you liked it or not. And I will see you for the next video. Thanks very much.